Once upon a time, there was a sweet little girl who lived in a small village near the forest. Everyone loved her, especially her grandmother, who made her a beautiful red-hooded cloak. The little girl wore it so often that people began calling her Little Red Riding Hood. One sunny morning, her mother called out, "Little Red Riding Hood, come here please." "Yes, mother," she answered cheerfully, running into the kitchen with a bright smile. Her mother handed her a small basket filled with cake, bread, and a pot of butter. "Your grandmother is feeling sick," said her mother gently. "Please take this basket to her house. Remember to stay on the forest path," she added. "Don't stop to talk to strangers." "I promised, mother," said Little Red Riding Hood, nodding with her red hood bobbing softly. Her mother kissed her forehead. "Good girl, be careful and come back before dark." With her basket in hand, Little Red Riding Hood set off along the forest path. Birds chirped in the trees, and sunlight danced through the leaves above her head. She hummed a happy tune as she walked, her red cloak glowing in the morning light. After a while, she heard a deep voice call, "Good morning, little girl. Where are you going?" Startled, she turned and saw a big gray wolf standing beside the trees. But the wolf smiled politely and said, "Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." Little Red Riding Hood felt a little nervous, but the wolf's voice sounded kind. "I'm going to visit my grandmother," she said. "She lives in the little house near the end of the forest." "How nice," said the wolf softly. "And what do you have in your basket?" "Cake and butter for Grandma," she said, smiling proudly. The wolf's eyes gleamed, and he licked his lips quietly so she would not notice. "Wouldn't your grandmother love some flowers too?" the wolf asked kindly. "Oh, that's a wonderful idea," said Little Red Riding Hood happily. She stepped off the path to pick some bright yellow and white flowers. Meanwhile, the clever wolf chuckled softly and whispered, "I'll take a shorter way." He ran quickly through the forest, his paws silent on the ground. Soon, he reached the grandmother's cottage and knocked on the door. "Who is it?" called the grandmother weakly from her bed. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf in a sweet, soft voice. "Come in, my dear," said the grandmother kindly. The wolf opened the door and quickly jumped onto the bed. Before the grandmother could cry out, he swallowed her up in one big gulp. Then he laughed. "Now I'll wait for the little girl." He put on her nightcap and glasses, pulled the blanket up, and lay down pretending to be her. Meanwhile, Little Red Riding Hood was still gathering flowers in the forest. She had picked so many that she could barely carry them in her arms. "Oh dear," she said, looking up. "It's getting late. I should go to Grandma's now." She hurried down the path, skipping through the trees toward the little cottage. As she reached the door, she knocked softly. "Grandmother, may I come in?" A rough voice answered, "Come in, my dear. The door is open." Little Red Riding Hood slowly opened the door and stepped inside the quiet cottage. It was dark inside, and the curtains were drawn across the windows. "Grandmother?" she called softly. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood." "Come closer, my dear," said the wolf in a strange, scratchy voice. Little Red Riding Hood felt something was odd, but she walked toward the bed anyway. She set down her basket on the table and looked carefully at her grandmother. "Oh, grandmother," she said slowly, "what big eyes you have." "The better to see you with, my dear," growled the wolf softly, smiling under the blanket. "And grandmother," she said, her voice shaking a little, "what big ears you have." "The better to hear you with, my dear," said the wolf in a low, rumbling tone. "Grandmother," she whispered, stepping closer, "what big hands you have." "The better to hug you with, my dear," said the wolf, showing his sharp claws. Now, Little Red Riding Hood's heart began to beat faster and faster. "Grandmother," she said, trembling, "what big teeth you have. The better to eat you with," roared the wolf, throwing off the blanket. He jumped out of bed and chased her around the small room. Little Red Riding Hood screamed and tried to run for the door, but the wolf was too fast. With one big gulp, he swallowed her whole. Then he rubbed his belly and laughed. "Ah, now I'm full at last." The wolf yawned, climbed back into bed, and soon fell fast asleep. A few minutes later, a hunter was walking through the forest nearby. He stopped and listened. "That's strange," he said. "I hear snoring from Grandma's house." He walked to the cottage and peeked through the window. "What in the world?" he whispered. "That's a wolf in Grandma's bed." Quietly, he opened the door and stepped inside, holding his axe tightly. He looked at the wolf's round belly and thought, maybe Grandma is still alive inside. So he took his knife and carefully cut open the sleeping wolf's belly. Out came Little Red Riding Hood, gasping for air but safe. "Grandmother," she cried, and soon the old woman also climbed out, weak but alive. "Oh, thank you, kind hunter," said Little Red Riding Hood with tears in her eyes. The hunter smiled. "Let's make sure this wolf never hurts anyone again." He filled the wolf's belly with heavy stones and sewed it up again. When the wolf woke up, he tried to run away, but the stones were too heavy. He fell down with a great crash and never got up again. Little Red Riding Hood hugged her grandmother tightly. "I was so scared, Grandma," she whispered softly. "My dear child," said the grandmother gently, "thank goodness you are safe." Then they sat down together, and Little Red Riding Hood brought out her basket. They shared the cake and butter, laughing through their tears. When they finished, Little Red Riding Hood said, "I will never talk to strangers again. And I will always stay on the forest path," she added firmly. Her grandmother smiled proudly. "That's my good little girl." The hunter waved goodbye and went back into the forest. The sun was shining again, and birds sang softly in the trees. From that day on, Little Red Riding Hood always remembered her lesson. She grew up kind, wise, and brave, and she never forgot her grandmother's love. And whenever she walked through the forest, she smiled and said softly, "Thank you, dear hunter, and goodbye, Mr. Wolf." Then she skipped happily home, her red hood glowing in the sunlight. And that, my friends, is the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Now, my dear listener, let's think about what we learned from Little Red Riding Hood. This story is not only about a little girl and a big bad wolf. It's about safety, kindness, and learning to be wise. Let's say it together. Always listen to your parents. Say it again with me slowly. Always listen to your parents. Little Red Riding Hood didn't mean to get into trouble. She was sweet and kind, but she trusted a stranger. Repeat this line. Do not talk to strangers. Say it again with feeling. Do not talk to strangers. The wolf seemed nice at first, but he had a dark plan. Sometimes bad things hide behind a friendly smile. Let's repeat. Be careful who you trust. Once more, be careful who you trust. Now, take a deep breath. Good job. Imagine you are walking in the forest like Little Red Riding Hood. You see trees, flowers, birds, and sunlight dancing through the leaves. You feel happy, but also a little nervous. Now, say it softly with me. Stay on the right path. Again, stay on the right path. Sometimes in life, we are tempted to go the wrong way. Maybe someone tells us, "Come here, it's more fun." But wise people remember the lesson. Follow the safe road. Say it now. Follow the safe road. Good. You are doing great shadowing practice. Now, let's talk about bravery. When the wolf jumped at her, Little Red Riding Hood screamed for help. Even though she was scared, she didn't give up. Say it with me. Be brave, even when you are afraid. Again, be brave, even when you are afraid. The hunter also showed bravery when he entered the house. He didn't run away, he acted to save others. Repeat this. Real courage helps others. One more time, real courage helps others. Now, smile and take another deep breath. You're not just listening, you're growing wiser, just like Little Red Riding Hood. Let's repeat the moral of the story together. Listen to your parents, stay on the path, and never trust a stranger. One last time, listen to your parents, stay on the path, and never trust a stranger. Very good. Now let's relax for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine the safe, sunny forest again. You see Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother having tea. They are laughing and smiling. The danger is gone. The birds sing softly and the forest feels peaceful again. Now say gently, I am safe, I am strong, I am kind. Say it again, I am safe, I am strong, I am kind. This is the real magic of fairy tales. They teach us to be better people. They remind us that good hearts always win in the end. So, next time you hear a story, remember to look for the lesson inside it. And remember Little Red Riding Hood's brave, gentle heart. Now, repeat after me one last time. Be brave, be kind, be wise. Excellent! You have done a wonderful job today. Now, let's practice retelling the story of Little Red Riding Hood together. I'll say a sentence first, and then you repeat it after me. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who always wore a red hood. Your turn, say it. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who always wore a red hood. She was called Little Red Riding Hood because of her red cloak. Say it after me. She was called Little Red Riding Hood because of her red cloak. One day, her mother asked her to bring food to her grandmother. Repeat. Her mother asked her to bring food to her grandmother. Her mother warned her, don't talk to strangers and stay on the path. Say it now. Don't talk to strangers and stay on the path. Little Red Riding Hood promised, yes, mother, I will. Repeat after me. Yes, mother, I will. Then she walked happily into the forest with her basket. Say it. She walked happily into the forest with her basket. Along the way, she met a big, gray wolf. Repeat. She met a big, gray wolf. The wolf smiled and asked, where are you going, little girl? Now you say it. Where are you going, little girl? Little Red Riding Hood said, I'm going to visit my grandmother. Your turn. I'm going to visit my grandmother. Then the wolf said, why not pick some flowers for her? Repeat that line. Why not pick some flowers for her? Little Red Riding Hood thought it was a good idea, so she left the path. Say it. She left the path to pick some flowers. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house. Repeat. The wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house. He pretended to be Little Red Riding Hood and knocked on the door. Your turn. He pretended to be Little Red Riding Hood and knocked on the door. When Grandma opened the door, the wolf jumped inside and swallowed her whole. Repeat slowly. The wolf jumped inside and swallowed her whole. Then he put on her clothes and waited for the little girl to arrive. Say it after me. He put on her clothes and waited for the little girl to arrive. When Little Red Riding Hood entered, she was surprised. Say it. She was surprised. She said, Grandmother, what big eyes you have. Repeat it. What big eyes you have. The wolf growled, the better to see you with, my dear. Your turn. The better to see you with, my dear. Then she said, Grandmother, what big teeth you have. Say it again. What big teeth you have. And the wolf shouted, the better to eat you with. Repeat that. the better to eat you with. Then the wolf jumped up and swallowed her too. Say it. The wolf swallowed her too. But soon, a hunter came and saved them both. Repeat. A hunter came and saved them both. After that day, Little Red Riding Hood learned her lesson. Say it with me. She learned her lesson. She never talked to strangers again, and she always stayed on the path. Repeat it proudly. Never talk to strangers. Always stay on the path. Excellent. You just retold the entire story. That's wonderful speaking practice, my friend. Now, let's review everything we learned from Little Red Riding Hood. This story teaches us about listening, safety, and courage. Let's start with a few simple questions. Question 1. Who was Little Red Riding Hood going to visit? Say the answer. She was going to visit her grandmother. Great! Let's try another one. Question 2. What did her mother tell her before she left? Say it with me. Don't talk to strangers and stay on the path. Perfect. Now, question 3. Who did Little Red Riding Hood meet in the forest? That's right, she met a wolf. Question 4. What did the wolf tell her to do? He said, pick some flowers for your grandmother. Question 5. Was that good advice? No, it was a trick. Now let's talk about what happened next. The wolf ran ahead and ate the grandmother. Then he dressed up in her clothes and waited for the girl. When Little Red Riding Hood came in, she noticed something strange. She said, "What big eyes you have." Then, "What big teeth you have." And the wolf shouted, "The better to eat you with." Let's pause here. Imagine you are Little Red Riding Hood. What would you do if you saw the wolf? Would you run away? Would you scream? Or would you call for help? Think about it. What is the safest thing to do? Now say your answer out loud. Good. You're thinking like a smart, careful person. Next question. Who came to save Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother? Yes, the hunter. Say it clearly. The hunter saved them both. He was brave and quick to act. Now repeat after me. Bravery can save lives. Once more, bravery can save lives. Now, let's talk about the lesson of this story. Repeat with me. Always listen to your parents. And again, always listen to your parents. Next, do not trust strangers. Say it again. Do not trust strangers. And one more. Be brave and stay calm. Excellent. You sound amazing. Now, let's imagine the story after it ended. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother sat together drinking tea. They laughed and said, "We are safe now." Outside, the forest was quiet and peaceful again. The birds were singing, and the sunlight warmed their faces. Little Red Riding Hood smiled and said softly, "I will always remember what I learned today." Say it with her. I will always remember what I learned today. Then she hugged her grandmother and went home happily. Her mother welcomed her with open arms and said, "I'm proud of you." And Little Red Riding Hood answered, "I'll never talk to strangers again." Say it one last time. I'll never talk to strangers again. That's the end of our story, my dear listener. But every ending is also a new beginning. You can be like Little Red Riding Hood, kind, brave, and smart. So, what will you do today to be a little braver? Think about it, and say it out loud today. I will be brave. Once more with a smile today. I will be brave. Wonderful. You did amazing shadowing practice today. Remember, stories help us grow stronger, kinder, and wiser. Thank you for listening and speaking with me. This is the end of Little Red Riding Hood. Goodbye, and see you again in the next fairy tale.